welcome to Our Last Meal. The podcast is typically on grief, loss, and food. I'm your host, Andrew. I'm going to do things a little different this week. It's an off week, but it's also the week of Thanksgiving, which happens to be my favorite holiday. Typically, when you listen to the show, what you're hearing is stories of, like I said, loss, grief, and how this ties to food. But this week, I just wanted to do something a little bit different, a little bit more lighthearted, and just talk about Thanksgiving and what it means to some people. So what I did, I reached out to some folks, some friends, some former guests on the show, and I just had a simple question for them. What's a thing that you like about Thanksgiving? What's a special memory you have? Something that you really enjoyed, whether it's a tradition, a food, what are your thoughts around Thanksgiving? So I'm going to go through, I've got a couple that I'm going to read to you today. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my own thoughts and opinions on Thanksgiving. I've got an audio recording sent in from Devin of Culinary Convo I'll play. And I just wanted to take a chance to just give you something on Thanksgiving week that's a little more lighthearted than normal. I just couldn't go a week without celebrating and just calling out how much I love Thanksgiving. So just to start out with, this show does talk a lot about food, so it should not be a surprise that Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday. Ever since I was younger, I always looked forward to Thanksgiving just because I love all the traditional spread, the turkey, the ham, macaroni and cheese, rolls, green bean casserole. I love all of that. I also love getting to see my family. I've talked about in episodes before that I didn't get to see my extended family all the time growing up just because of distance. So Thanksgiving was always a chance that either my mom's side or my dad's side, I would get to see them. So I'd get to see cousins, aunts, uncles, and it was just always fun. I always loved that. Getting to spend time with them, getting to spend time with my grandparents, and now that I'm older and some of them are older, some of them are no longer with us, it really makes me appreciate that I can look back and think about the time I got to enjoy with them. The first thing I'm going to read you today is from a friend of mine, Christina. Christina's somebody who I think a lot of and very kind person, and I knew that she would have something good in terms of what Thanksgiving means to her, and honestly, she knocked it out of the park. So I'll read to you verbatim what she sent to me, which is, I love my Thanksgiving with my extended families, but Thanksgiving 2020 will forever be one of my favorite memories. COVID obviously rocked everyone's world when it came to social gatherings, and we still kept some contact with close family during the pandemic, but we all made a choice to stay at home. Thanksgiving 2020, since it was still so early in and the world was still reeling, it just made sense. We had lots of high-risk family members, and even though it disappointed many, we kept our distance. What this offered, though, was a chance for my little family of four to slow down, spend our time together, and it also gave me a chance to cook and share that meal with them. We roasted a small chicken and limited our menu to our favorite items, including sweet potato casserole and yeast rolls. I warmed up some of my mama's canned green beans from her very own garden the summer before last, and tried to recreate my mother-in-law's baked mac and cheese, which is always a family favorite. I put my two toddlers into high chairs, poured myself and my husband a glass of wine, and we enjoyed our quiet little meal together. It was glorious. Again, I love my family and my in-laws, and I relish the time that we get to spend together, but holidays also bring in a certain amount of stress with all the shuffling and peopling and traveling, and that particular Thanksgiving was a chance for us to slow down, truly spend a moment of gratitude with one another, and soak in a sweet moment of just us. I love that so much because 2020 was a hard year. I don't think I need to rehash it. I don't think I could rehash it in a way that it hasn't already been done. But what I will say, and what I knew that Christina would be able to offer, is some insight into how something like that could be special. My immediate family, my wife and daughter and I, the last several years, we've done Thanksgiving ourselves. And some of that was due to COVID. With COVID, it just made sense. But it's also turned into a tradition for the three of us that, no matter what, we're going to be at our house cooking food that we like. We will have family come over sometimes. If you're hearing this on Thursday, November the 24th, there will likely be family at our house eating with us. But just having that chance to do something small, low stress, good food, and just kind of back to basics, what it all means, which is I'm with my family. People I love more than anything in the world. I love that. I had to go back and look at my journal that I keep to see what Thanksgiving 2020 was like for us. And I took some notes that day of, the food we made, what we had. And I remember this, and it kind of jogged my memory as I read back through it. I remember we did something similar that year. We didn't want to get out and travel because of COVID. We wanted to be as safe as possible, but we also still wanted to make something out of it because our daughter just turned 4. We wanted it to be fun for her too. So we made a small meal. We had a small turkey breast, all the typical food that you would have to go with it. But we just had a really nice time, just the 3 of us. And I wouldn't trade that for anything in the world. So Christina, thank you so much for sharing this. I really sincerely appreciate it. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a recording from Devin, host of Culinary Convo, where he's going to talk a little bit about some of his favorite Thanksgiving memories.
Hello, our last meal listeners. It's Devin from the Culinary Convo podcast, and Andrew wanted me to share a story about Thanksgiving, his favorite holiday. Mine too, actually, or at least one of my favorite holidays. I absolutely love not only the abundance of cooking and food that is available, the style of food, and then the things that come out of the leftovers, but mainly I like the whole relaxed vibe of the holiday. It's very much about just sitting around, talking with family, eating with family, watching a football game or whatever, but you might be talking about other things going on in life, politics sometimes, what have you, things that are going on at work, whatever it may be, and everybody just gets to sit and relax. If you partake in drinking, it's always a good time to do that. You can take day naps. It's like there's no shame to Thanksgiving, and I absolutely love it. Because we're human beings, and that's what we like to do. We love to lounge around and eat and be with those that we care about and have a good time. And so my Thanksgiving memory, I've got 2. We'll see if I get to the second one. The first one that I've got, we always had Thanksgiving at one of my grandmother's house. Either one, it didn't matter. Most of the time it was my dad's side of the family. And they always raved about my mom's rolls that she would make, her dinner rolls. They were always perfectly, all the same height, all the same width, and she did make them homemade. So my grandma Georgie and, other relatives, they would always rave about those rolls because they were like, how do they always come out so perfect? How did you do that? It looks like it came out of a factory, but they taste like homemade and they're so good. To this day, it is very hard for me to do my mom's roll recipe, even though it is so simple. And then there was one year where basically my mom was like, we're having Thanksgiving at our house. And we got, all the stuff together. And there was a couple years where we had it at our house. And so I just remember it was one of the first years that we did it. We had family coming in, we set up tables and everything. And what I remember from it is actually that it was not the family, the food, the whatever. It was that my work had butted in. I, at the time, was working at, I believe it was at the Walmart there in town. And I was very frustrated because their options were you either had to work Thanksgiving or you had to work Black Friday. You only got one of those 2 days off. There's no way you can get both days off. That's the way that they kind of framed it to us. And so I just remember being like, well, you can't pay me enough to be in here on Black Friday. So I'm going to do the Thanksgiving day. But that was the thing, is when I said that, I thought, oh, you guys are going to stick me on a typical weekday shift because I was still in school at the time. So I was like, you guys are going to make me come in at like 4 to 8, like who cares? 4 to 8. I can do that, whatever. Well, they knew that school was out. So of course they scheduled me at like 1, which is exactly when like the food and everything gets done. And I think I had, like, my mom tried to be really nice and she made Thanksgiving and everybody came, at an earlier time than usual. And we got to have a plate. I think I got like a plate and a half of food. And I remember like starting to take a nap and I got so angry because I was like turkey drunk. I was so tired and I'm just like I can't remember if I was laying on a chair or a couch, and I was so frustrated that I had to go to work. And from that day forward, I like made a promise to myself that like at any cost, I do not go to like a store or like, I don't know, a business front of some kind. Restaurants, if you're open on Thanksgiving Day, you have to provide like a full meal for your staff. And it is allowable that if you give them like granola bars and a hamburger and you're like, oh, that is good enough for Thanksgiving, your employees get to shame you online. Like that's gonna happen and they're allowed to do so. I think as a nation, we should be able to look at all of these employers and go, hey, can you not give these people a paid day off? Like, you as a company, are you so fragile that paying them for one day off, you're just going to completely go out of business? You're not going to be competitive anymore? Like, give me a break. And so I just remember being so frustrated that my work, it kind of had like butted into my family holiday, to that thing that I cared about the most. And up until that point, I worked every Labor Day too. And so it was like, I never get Labor Day off. And so it was one of those things that like, I don't, if they want more people to be friendly to business and capitalism and such, there's give and take. You guys got to give us a paid day off. And if you are making us work, you got to provide all the stops. Like, you got to provide drinks, meals, everything. If we want to sit and talk and do whatever because nobody's in the store or whatever, you got to allow that. Because I understand some folks, they're not all working or all with family on those days. And I've had some Thanksgivings with friends because I was at college and I could, it didn't make sense to go all the way back home to only have like a couple days off. And so I've had Thanksgiving with friends. And it's been amazing to do that, but it was always because I didn't have to go into a work place at all. And so that is like one of the key memories that I have, is that like, if I ever have kids, I will flat out tell them like, no, you're not working on Thanksgiving. Well, Dad, that means I've got to go and work on Black Friday. I'm gonna be like, no, you're going to be that person and you're going to call and say, I guess I am not feeling well. Because I think it's a shame. I think that it's crazy that as a nation, we can't just take like 2 days off. That can't happen. And I love Thanksgiving so much. Like, why would you do this to us? And so, yeah, I remember that Thanksgiving the most because it was the one that like broke my heart. It really did. But that's one of them. The second one, the second memory that I have is that I went to a Thanksgiving, after I had already moved out to the West Coast, and I went to this Thanksgiving, with all the family members of my family, like, except my parents. So I was, with, my, grandparents and an uncle and all this stuff. And I just remembered that one was really interesting because it was almost like I was hearing some of the family stories that I never really got to hear because they thought like kids were at the table, right? So it was interesting just to hear some of the family stories and the things that I never knew about, and, you know, those kinds of things. And so that was my other memory, was that. And I just hope that everybody has an amazing Thanksgiving. I hope that everybody gets to like do what they want to do. If you're not with family, you know, find something that you love to cook. That it doesn't even have to be traditional. It could be dim sum, it could be ramen, it could be whatever, and just go all out. Cook for that and for yourself. I mean, heck, if it's just really good mac and cheese, do it for yourself. But yeah, that is my Thanksgiving memories. I appreciate Andrew from Our Last Meal giving me the chance to talk about this and to air my frustrations because I really needed to. But no, I hope that everybody sits around the table and is thankful for everything that they have, especially after recent events. Whether it's chosen family, your family, everyone's family, I hope that everyone has a great Thanksgiving and listens to Our Last Meal, okay? And Culinary Convo. I mean, that's my podcast, but Our Last Meal especially. So thank you, Andrew, and I hope everybody has a great time.
As always, big thank you to Devin, host of Culinary Convo. I knew he would be able to give me some kind of great memory around food. I'll call it out. I love talking to Devin. I always have fun when Devin's on this podcast. I always have fun when I get to guest appear on his podcast. Again, Culinary Convo, if you're not following them on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, you should do that. If you're not following him on social media, you should do that too. He puts out a lot of really good content. He just loves food. He loves talking with people, and he makes it so much fun and just entertaining. And please go check it out. Devin, thank you so much, and I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. Listening to this, whenever he sent it to me, the first thing I thought of was I've worked retail before and worked on Thanksgiving. There were several years in a row that I had to work Thanksgiving, so I had to miss out on some Thanksgiving meals with my family. And that sucked. And the first thing I thought of when I heard his story was there was a year I was working at a grocery store and had to work Thanksgiving. So my manager, and to this day, I don't know if this was genuine kindness or just tongue-in-cheek being sarcastic and kind of a jerk. I don't know. Me and another stalker that were working, he bought 3 frozen dinners that were turkey. So turkey and gravy with like mashed potatoes. And I don't want to sound like I didn't appreciate it, because hey, free food, that's great. But it was also the delivery method of just hey, here you go. Boom. This is just as good as being with your family. I don't know. You know, that was a long time ago. I've eaten a lot of turkey since then. Robert, if you ever happen to hear this, you know what? Age and wisdom between then and between now, thank you. I appreciate the meal. I don't know that was how I would have chosen to spend my Thanksgiving when I was in my early 20s. But that being said, as an adult now, I appreciate it. Looking forward to some real food tomorrow. Another thing that Devin touched on was leftovers. And the only thing I think better than Thanksgiving food on Thanksgiving may be Thanksgiving food the next day, the Saturday, and then sometimes maybe the Sunday. I love Thanksgiving leftovers. And my all-time favorite thing is the Thanksgiving sandwich. I love a Thanksgiving sandwich made with the carved turkey and ham that you have after cooking it in your own oven. I am really looking forward to that this year. I promised my daughter the other day that I was going to teach her how to make one hell of a sandwich. So this Friday, I cannot wait to show her how to make the best sandwich she has ever had. So all the turkey and ham that we have left over is going to go into making a really good sandwich with some good cheese on good bread. I'm thinking maybe some Dijon mustard. I don't know. We'll see. If I do it and it comes out okay, I might throw it up on Instagram. If I don't put it on Instagram, either it wasn't good, which I doubt, or, and this is much more likely, I just ate it before I could get a picture. That's probably what's going to happen. But hey, if I can remember, I'll throw it out there. But yeah, I love leftover Thanksgiving food. It's amazing. I'll switch it over now. This is going to another friend, my friend Corey. Corey is my oldest friend, and I don't just mean in age. I mean in terms of how long we've known each other. We have been friends for almost 20 years now. When I say that Corey is like a brother to me, that is 100% putting it, lightly. This is someone who I'd give him the shirt off my back. I would do anything I could for him. I know he'd do the same for me, partly because we're friends, partly because that's just the kind of guy he is. Corey might be one of the nicest people I've ever met, and I say that with absolutely no hyperbole. Just one of the nicest people I've ever met, and I consider it an honor to be his friend. And I will say, if the people around you, if the company you keep is any indication of who you are as a person, I must not be that bad, because he's just such a good guy. So I reached out to him just to see what's the Thanksgiving thing that you love, what's a story you like, a food you like, and I love what he sent me. So he told me that he's not sure if Binging with Babish, who, if you're not familiar with Binging with Babish, such a great YouTube channel. Really cool food that he does, inspired by TV, movie, just media. He does all kinds of really cool things. I would just recommend, if you haven't seen it, I won't spoil it for you. Go to YouTube, Binging with Babish, Babish. Look it up. There's a lot of great stuff on there. But he said, I'm not sure if Binging with Babish has already done this, but one Thanksgiving, my wife decided to recreate the rum ham from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and it's been a holiday hit ever since. It's not quite as alcoholic as the real one, but it's very delicious. I'll give some context in case maybe you're not familiar with the rum ham from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. There is an episode of this TV show. They basically get drunk off a ham, which I could think of much worse ways to get drunk, but they get drunk off of this rum ham. And I gotta be honest, the idea of rum and ham, rum's got some sweet notes to it, ham plays really well with sweet. I could see that being really good. I was thinking of any kind of food I've made based on something I've seen around Thanksgiving. When I was younger, in my 20s, I had just moved out of my parents' house a year before, and the first Thanksgiving that I went to their house after moving out, I had found a recipe in the break room at work for turkey Mercedes. I'm saying it wrong, I'm sure, but it was basically a Cuban-inspired take on turkey. And it looked really good. Garlic, citrus, thought it sounded really good, so I decided I'm going to make this for Thanksgiving. My mom made a turkey breast too, just to make sure that we didn't have just one option in case it sucked, in case I screwed it up. But I made it, and it was actually really good. And my mom helped me make a gravy with it. And I remember my dad, in true dad fashion, the entire time joking about, this weird turkey that I made, which I didn't think it was that weird personally, but, palate-wise, maybe it just wasn't something he was used to. So he made fun of it. He joked at me the entire day, and I still like to throw it in his face anytime he brings it up. That time I made that Cuban turkey, that he could laugh, but he also had seconds and thirds, and I know that I really enjoyed it. So turkey Mercedes, spelled like the car. If you ever run into a recipe for it, give it a shot. It's really good. Last person whose story I'm going to share, Dana. Dana appeared on Our Last Meal a couple months ago, and it was a great conversation. Dana is a chief HR officer of Hive Talent Acquisition. She's the author of the book Before I Knew It, They Were Gone, a Jewish first-generation American woman's journey through the darkness. Dana sent me a really heartfelt, thoughtful message, and I think this is probably the perfect way to end this episode today. Thanksgiving used to be my favorite American holiday to celebrate with my family, because we would use the time to head to a cabin in Big Bear most years, sharing with other families or even on our own. But we got out of LA and back to nature. When I lost my family in my 20s to various cancers, I was so alone and felt so little during this particular holiday that it was very hard to celebrate it, and I avoided it. traveling alone most years around the world. When I met my husband and his family, I slowly started to enjoy the holiday again because I was creating my own family. And when we had our son, the circle was complete, and I was able to fully heal to enjoy all the holiday has to offer again. And I think that's beautiful. Because in Dana's story, if you go back and listen, if you read her book, or even just what you just heard, you can tell there is a lot of sadness in there. But there's a lot of hope. And getting to talk to people like Dana who have such a positive outlook on life and are able to find beauty in so much darkness and think about what's next and what could be, and appreciating what you have, is a big reason why I do this podcast. And as I think this year about what I'm thankful for, I'm thankful, of course, for my family, my friends. I'm thankful for all the things I take for granted. I'm also thankful that I've had a chance in the last 6 months to do this podcast and get to meet and talk with so many bright, kind, intelligent people and help them get their stories out there. And I hope if at any point you've listened and enjoyed it, or it did something for you or helped you in some way, I hope that it's been of help. I hope this episode today has been in some way helpful to you. If for nothing else, if you're hiding from family because it's Thanksgiving and it can be awkward, I hope this has been of help. If it's you're listening to it in the car right on the way to or from, I hope it helps. Whatever your tradition is, whatever you're doing today, tomorrow, whenever you hear this, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. I hope you have a great day, whenever it is. I always like to end the episodes by telling you to share a meal with someone you care about. I think I'm going to really double down on that today. I really hope you have a chance to share Thanksgiving with someone that you care about, or some people that you care about. And if not, please care about yourself. I hope you have a great holiday. I'm looking forward to many great episodes to come, and we will see you next week.